Hello, everyone. I'm going to read chapter 13 tonight from Ken Schoolin's book, The Adventures of Jonathan Gullible, a free market odyssey. Got a new office chair, game chair, big man's chair today, so I'm a lot more comfortable than normal. I can kick back, put my feet up as I read, which is going to make it a little more comfortable and enjoyable for me, and hopefully that will translate itself uh, into what I'm reading. There's Charlie Brown's teacher talking to me. Chapter 8, Helter Shelter, starts with a quote. The government solution to a problem is usually as bad as the problem. Milton Friedman. The streets grew quieter as Jonathan trudged down yet another row of drab houses. He noticed a group of poorly dressed people gathered in front of three tall buildings labeled Block A, Block B, and Block C. Block A was vacant and in appalling condition, the brickwork crumbling, the windows broken, and any remaining panes filthy with grime. Next door at Block B, people huddled on the front steps. Jonathan heard loud voices coming from inside and the sounds of lively activity from all three floors. Laundry hung untidily from sticks that protruded from every available window and balcony. It burst at the seams with tenants. Across the street stood Block C, immaculately maintained and, like Block A, empty of people. Its scrubbed windows sparkled in the sunlight. Plastered walls were smooth and clean. As he gazed at the three buildings, Jonathan felt a light tap on his shoulder. Turning, he faced a young girl with long brown hair. Her light gray clothes fitted her poorly, and she wasn't especially pretty at first sight, but Jonathan thought she looked alert and kind. Do you know of any apartments for rent? She asked in a soft, pleasant voice. I'm sorry, said Jonathan. I'm not from around here. But why don't you check those two vacant buildings? It's no use, he responded softly. But, said Jonathan, they look empty to me. They are. My family used to live over there in Block A before rent control. What's rent control? Asked Jonathan. It's a law to stop landlords from raising rents. Why? Probed Jonathan. Oh, it's a silly story, she said. Back when the Dream Machine came through our neighborhood, my dad and other tenants complained about landlords raising rents. Sure, costs were up and more people were renting, but my dad said that was no reason for us to pay more. So the tenants, or former tenants, I should say, demanded that the Council of Lords prohibit the raising of rents. The council did just that and hired a pack of snooping administrators, inspectors, judges, and guards to enforce the new rules. Were the tenants pleased? At first, sure. My dad felt secure about the cost of a roof over our heads, but then the landlord stopped building new apartments and stopped fixing the old ones. What happened? Costs kept going up. Repairmen, security guards, managers, utilities, taxes, and the like. But the landlords couldn't raise the rents to pay for it all, so they figured why build and fix just to lose money. Taxes went up too? Asked Jonathan. Sure, to pay for enforcing rent control, budgets and staff had to grow, said the girl. The council passed rent control, but never tax control. Well, when repairs and upkeep stopped, everyone started to hate the landlords. They weren't always hated? No, before rent control, we had lots of apartments to choose from. Landlords had to be nice to get us to move in and stay. Most landlords acted friendly and made things attractive. If there were any nasty landlords, word got around fast and people avoided them like the rats they were. Nice landlords attracted steady tenants, while nasty ones suffered a plague of vacancies. What changed? After rent control, everyone got nasty, she said with a look of despair. The worst happened the most. The worst prospered the most. She sat down on the curb to scratch Mises behind the ears. Mises rolled over and began to purr. Aware of Jonathan staring at her, she continued confidently. Costs went up, but not the rents. Even the nicest landlords had to cut back on repairs. When buildings became uncomfortable or dangerous, tenants got mad and complained to the inspectors. The inspectors slapped fines on the landlords. Of course, some landlords bribed inspectors to look the other way. Finally, the owner of Block A, a decent man, couldn't afford the losses or bribes anymore, so he just up and left. Abandon his own building? Spluttered Jonathan. Yes, it happens a lot, she sighed. Imagine walking away from something that took a lifetime to build. Well, fewer and fewer apartments were available, but the number of tenants kept growing. People had to squeeze into whatever was left. Even mean landlords, like the one who holds Block B, never had a vacancy again. Rumor has it that he takes payoffs under the table just to move applicants higher up the waiting list. Those with enough cash get by okay. That nasty owner makes out like a bandit. What about Block B? Said Jonathan, wanting to be helpful. Can you get in? The waiting line is awful. When Dame Whitmore passed away, you should have seen the brawl in front of the building. Everyone scratching and yelling at each other for position in line. Lady Tweed's son finally got that apartment, even though nobody remembers seeing him in line that day. My family once tried to share an apartment in Block B, but the building code prohibits sharing. What's a building code? Asked Jonathan. The girl frowned. It started as a set of rules for safety, but the Lords now use it to determine our lifestyle. You know, things like the right number of sinks, stoves, and toilets, the right number and kind of people, the right amount of space. With a tinge of sarcasm, she added, so we end up in the street where nothing meets the code. No sinks, stoves, or toilets, no privacy, and far too much space. Jonathan grew depressed, thinking about her plight. Then he remembered the third building, brand new and vacant. It was the obvious solution to her problems. Why don't you move into Block C, right there across the street? She laughed bitterly. That would be a violation of the zoning rules. Zoning rules, he repeated. Sitting on the pavement, Jonathan shook his head, incredulous. Those are rules about location. Zoning works like this, she said, picking up a stick to sketch a little map in the dirt. The council draws lines on a map of the town. People are allowed to sleep on one side of the line at nights, but they must work on the other side during the day. Block B is on the sleep side of the line, and Block C is on the work side. Usually, work buildings are located across the town from sleep buildings, so that everyone needs to travel a lot every morning and evening. They say the long distances are good for exercise and carriage sales. Jonathan stared in bewilderment. A packed apartment building standing between two empty buildings in a street full of homeless people. Sympathetically, he asked, What are you going to do? We take one day at a time. My dad wants me to go with him to the gala thumbs up party that Lady Tweed is putting on for the homeless tomorrow. She promises to lift our spirits with games and a free lunch. How generous, remarked Jonathan dryly, recalling his conversation with Lady Tweed. Maybe she'd let you live in her house until you find something of your own. Dad actually had the nerve to ask her that once, especially since Tweed led the council in putting through rent controls. Lady Tweed declared, but that would be charity. Charity is demeaning. She explained to him that it is far more respectable to require taxpayers to give us housing. She told him to be patient and that she'd make arrangements with the council. The young woman smiled at Jonathan and asked, By the way, they call me Alyssa. Do you want to join us at Tweed's free lunch tomorrow afternoon? Jonathan blushed. Maybe he could learn to enjoy this island. Sure, I'd love to come along. By the way, I'm Jonathan. Alyssa jumped up, smiling. Then, Jonathan, we meet here tomorrow. Same time. Bring your cat. And that is the end of chapter 13. I hope everybody's enjoying this reading of this wonderful book. We're probably, well, there's 40 chapters, and we are at just finished chapter 13. I'm enjoying reading it. Um, I know that it has a lot of lessons for everybody. Um, if you've got children or young adults, I hope you will purchase a copy for them. These are lessons that we don't get taught often enough, um, not nearly often enough. And I'm very appreciative to Professor Schoolen for allowing me to share these ideas with whatever audience happens to be watching. Well, have a great night, and hopefully I will see you tomorrow. God bless you.